afternoon. Happy Venus Day for everybody who is working with Venus. This is a good day to honor Ereshkigal as Venus stations retrograde, to remind the Venusian that it is wanted and it is loved, to remind our fellow women if there are people who have been marginalized or rejected or ignored or kind of being or enduring misjustice done towards them. This is a good time to reach out. This is a good time to speak up, to honor, to let them know that they're invited, let them know that they are loved. As we remember also the women that might not always speak with the most elegant words, or might not always have the dress code, or might not always carry the etiquette correctly, and they are also a part of the fabric of life and should not be mistreated. And so today I would like to do a little bit of live elections. I've already begun this, but since so lovely that we are already in a Jupiter hour for this Venus day. Mercury, although the ruler of the ascendant, is in the 12th house. The moon has separated from the Mars opposition Saturn. Okay, it's only 1 degree of separation. We're already like, whew, Mars is separated from the minutes of the exact opposition. The moon is separated. It is still in effect. It is still going on. But we are on our way out of that tension. And I'd like to stop and take a moment to remind you to let me know in the comments, how was the Mars opposition Saturn for you while Venus is stationing retrograde? What things did you discover? Is there something that you're very happy that you didn't do? You wanted to do, but you're like, oh my God, thanks God, I didn't do it yet. So let me know if this is the case for you. And meanwhile, both the ascendant and the midheaven are ruled by a 12th house Mercury in the 18th degree. Oh, wow. But trining Chiron. Jupiter here is in the 9th house, Venus in the 12th. So it's not the best election to talk about this, but I do actually want to do this. And that is to start electing with you dates for working with Venus and doing Venus talismans. And the particular choice of Venus that I've already began to work for is Venus in Taurus. Right here on AstroSeek, you can pick returns on particular degree. I did Astro Tools, return to particular degree, and then return on particular degree. Then I set it to, you can set it to any planet that you want. I set it to Venus. Returning to 0 degree Taurus. And as of 2023. So the last time Venus was in Taurus, it was March 17. She ingressed into Taurus and then separated from Pluto there. On April 29, 2024, she will be doing so again. And this is a good time to already animate this chart because we want Venus separating from Pluto, which will happen to be my own personal Venus return. So we have Friday, May 3rd, and this is Friday for people who are living in Israel, in Middle East, I believe also in Europe, and you would need to adjust the timings for you. Okay? And so the moon will be sextiling Venus, and if I just go, I think it is 12 hours back, we have, I'll take it 3 hours forward, and we have the exact one. The exact one is the moon on 4 degrees Pisces. That is also conjunct Fomalhaut. okay? Sextiling Venus in Taurus on the ascendant. So Venus is angular on the ascendant, okay, Venus in the first house, and the moon from the 11th house sextiling this Venus. Venus will be co-present with the Sun, with Uranus, with Jupiter, and she's very tightly separating from Pluto. So it is in orb, however, it is a separating aspect. So you need to take it into consideration. I've seen good work with Venus done when Venus was separating from the square to Pluto this March, okay, March 2023. And so that is an interesting one. Yes, the moon is co-present with Saturn and with Neptune, but we have it isolated from this Saturn. Two things we can do here. One is moon conjunct Fomalhaut. And Fomalhaut is, if I'm combining both the Christopher Warnock writings on Fomalhaut and the Sphere and Sundry, it's basically that wisdom that you can't quite express in words. And it has to do with managing your reputation. And here in the 11th house, it's a great time for anybody that has to combat slander or being slandered. Anybody that has had their reputation damaged unrightfully, or even people who have had their reputation managed rightfully, for them to take accountability, for them to grow from the experience and to have this inner wisdom on how to tackle things. That's very much a Fomalhaut, and it's also very good for eloquence, for art, for psychic wisdom. Okay, so when I remember when I worked in energy with the Sphere and Sundry creation, I kind of got something to do with clarifying my own name, which I don't know how, and like I have no idea how it worked, but I kind of got insights. It's kind of like the magic to clear my name, to clarify my name, to clarify the reputation. And indeed, I got Neptune separating from my ascendant. Neptune means that you can have loss of reputation or status, or people slandering your name, idealizing or devaluing you. So Moon Fomalhaut is very highly recommended for people who want to delve there. It's a royal fixed star. And the second election for this day, or right at the same time. So you're going to have to see what you're doing here. You can go for the moon in 2 degrees. I really like this ascendant, but you can try and see how do you want to change it, like for you, because this one is, yeah, I really like this Venus in the ascendant, but you can see how do you change it to your area. So in the Middle East, you can have it the moon on the 11th and Venus on the 1st, a sextile relation, which is also excellent for harmony between sensuality and emotional safety. So you can, if you know what I think right now, if you have concerns, let's say you want to be sensual, but you have concerns about how will you be perceived, how will you be seen, that might be a good way to go. If you want to have an experience of the sensuality that is erotic and spiritual, as well as physical, sensual, then that can be the way to go. Venus in the 4th basically means in the 1st house. So 1st house is the body. It's very good for receiving pleasure, enjoying pleasure, and pleasure for the body, wealth for the body. Okay, let's say you want to have good nourishing food, or you want to be gifted with things that are like lotions or things you can put on your body, or perfumes, and that can be a great. If you are doing dancing or any arts expressive or singing, that can be a great one to enhance this interconnectivity and the divine voice. So that is all in all good. But you need to remember here is the midheaven on the 22nd degree with Saturn here in the 11th, and this is a malefic ruling the midheaven. Although we are focusing on the moon and Taurus, I want to see if I can have planetary hours for this. Enter date manually. No, I don't have the planetary hours, so we will need to see you will need to see the planetary hours. So that's, yeah. No. With planetary hours, it will definitely be important to make sure you are not targeting a Saturn day or a Saturn hour, because that would give it an extra something that's not so useful. I mean, Saturn here is separating from a square to the sun. It's not really doing anything, but we don't need it in this election, right? So this is 2024. And if we kind of move, let's say another day, or a couple of days, so that the moon will meet Venus in conjunction, I want to see what happens then. Now let's start to play with the, not 6 months. Now let's start to play with the hours. Okay, so this is the moon separating from this Pluto. Oh, this is a very interesting election too. I'm going to capture it here. Oh, I want to capture this election. No, not like this. Like, never mind. I'm live, so I'll do that. Oh, now I can do it, I know. Great. So this election is very interesting. It is with the midheaven on 0 degrees Taurus. Let's see if I can get the midheaven moving a bit. This is just, I don't think it's 3 hours, a couple of minutes probably. Then say 10 minutes. Yeah, we can get the midheaven moving. Okay. Now we got the midheaven. Now I want the moon applying to the midheaven. Yeah, this is great. Okay, so here we got the ruler sun, the ruler of this chart, the sun in the 10th house, Venus in the 10th house, 9 degrees. The sun is sextiling Saturn. I'm okay with this. It's a sextile, not concerned. The moon, not only not concerned, it's like it's better to have in a sextile. The moon here in Taurus, applying to the midheaven, applying to Venus in Taurus in the 10th house. So very angular. And the most angular with the midheaven and the 8th degree, the most angular planet that we have here is basically Venus. So she's the most angular planet in this chart. All in all, it's a great chart, great, pick for that. So this is May 7, 2024, Venus in the 9th degree of Taurus. Now the difference being, she's still in the same phase, but I think she's in different term. So we're going to have slight differences between the Venus, and here also she's in the 10th house. So this is very good for it's very good if your profession is singing, if you want to be to have confidence, but you have to understand Uranus is also here, Jupiter is also here, Uranus on the 22nd degree still. So there's going to be something, kind of unusual, but also this is very good where you want to have a profession to do with Venus. So let's say whether you're a model, a singer, an artist, where you need to stand out and look elegant and beautiful. And you're gonna have a little bit of a controversy around you here with this Uranus, but it's not necessarily anything terrible. There is this separation from the square to Pluto. Okay, so you'll need to see, does it play out for you? How does it work for you, and so on and so forth. And the ruler of the ascendant Sun in Taurus, 17 degree. Very good where you have to shine your light publicly, or if you have to give a performance where you're singing, where you're dancing, or where you have to kind of be looking elegant, having this elegant image, even though you're controversial. Okay, controversial but elegant. That can be the case, and to make money off these things that are Venusian. That can also be banking, by the way. So that is yet another Venus election. And then we can kind of move to where the moon is in you know what, let's keep it right here. We have a couple of elections here, and this is quite a good window here with the moon approaching. And you can try it with a couple of ascendants and see if you can work your way around this election. So that's another window of opportunity. I want to go actually on another day, and let's see when the moon is actually going to Cancer. So this is the moon separating from this Venus, and this is already beginning to look better. Why? Because the moon was decreasing in both of these elections. Okay, it was decreasing. We want the moon growing. And now we're already beginning to enter the domain where the moon is growing. But let's see if we have an election. Venus is already on the 15 degrees, and the moon will be trining Saturn as it applies to this Venus, is applying to trine Saturn as it is applying to this Venus. So, so here the moon is with the ascendant, and Venus is in the 11th. But the midheaven is with Mars. Okay, so Venus in the 11th, very good. The square with Mars is separating, but we must not forget about it, okay? Because Mars here on the midheaven, then we want to change that. Let's go back a little. Now, this moon is even more tightly. Oh, and this moon is squaring the nodes. Okay, this is not an election that I can work with, because we see, unless you look even better, and you may find this election, well, the moon here is very good. There is this square not only with Mars, but even more particularly with the nodes. And if we move to the separating from the square with the nodes, we kind of have Mars on the midheaven. Let's see if we can play just a little bit with this. And move that Mars from being angular. Let's move that Mars from being angular, but then we have this Rahu. If I move it just a little bit. Okay, now this is something that is, if I move it even more, now this midheaven is kind of between Rahu and Ketu. It's not on Rahu, it's separating. Moon is separating from Mars. Now, this is an aspect that is still in effect. So you need to be very cautious here, because this is the kind of aspect where you can have a talisman where good things happen, but then you have like an accident, especially if Mars is the malefic out of sect for you. There's the kind of a risky election. Yes, the moon is in the first, far enough from the ascendant not to be like this malefic. We usually don't want the moon with the ascendant, if we can. And Venus is sextile in the moon, exactly in Taurus in the 11th house. And that can mean that you can gain benefits. So if you do public speaking, or if you need a crowdfunding campaign for your album or something, that's something that can be good. But the ruler of the midheaven is squaring this moon, which, is something to pay attention to. So I would consider giving up this election. What we can try to see if we can go a little bit farther. So okay, this one is interesting. It's not impossible. And here we get the ascendant in Cancer. So the ascendant is moon ruled, while the moon is, if we could move it a bit from the 22nd degree, we need it a little bit closer. So let's just go. Yeah, this is 19. Okay, no, it's on the minute. You have to see, when you see the degree, look at the minute, because then Venus was, I think, 10 minutes and the moon was 53 minutes, and so the moon is separating. I want the moon applying. So Venus, okay. Here Venus is in the 18th degree. I want to take it maybe 3 hours forward. I want her to move out of this degree. Yes, 19th degree. Now the moon is doing but let's keep another hour, okay? If you know a bit of degrees theory, we try to avoid the 18th degree, the 22nd degree, that are more malefic, especially for Venus talisman. We want something good. Now, this is something that can work for income. But you need to understand, the ascendant is ruled by Mars. Mars is in the first house, distant from the ascendant. And Mars is the most angular planet here. Okay, this means that this Mars is very strong. The moon is not in an aspect with this Mars. The midheaven is ruled by Saturn, which is in the 12th. So it's already given me like quite difficult vibes to work with. And the moon is squaring Venus in Taurus. It can be good for income that you make through competition and diligent effort. But because the ruler of the midheaven is in the 12th house, there's a lot of a problem here. But I just wanted to show you like how would the square election look like. It's not looking pretty. It's not something that I would recommend using, even though the moon is growing and it does aspect Venus. Let's go a bit farther. Well, Venus is still, yeah. So the closest election that we're going to have with this, we can try to go for, and this is another option that you have. We really do get this ascendant on Mars, don't we? Okay, let's go for another this. Okay. Another option that we have is basically, even though the moon does not see Venus, is the moon being ruled by Venus. And if you get a Venus day, this is Monday, this is moon day, which is good. If you get a moon day Venus hour and you move this moon away from the 18th degree and this ascendant somewhere else, you get a good Venus, moon, and Venus algo.
So Venus here is between Uranus on Algol and conjunct in Jupiter. So this is not impossible. If you get the ascendant even on the moon or on Venus, you can get an Algol Venus talisman. Algol is good for protection. We recently had this talk on Twitter about people who try to do stuff like sex magic or astral projection, and they're so excited about this that they can think that who's gonna know? Nobody's gonna know. But darling, if you're traveling out of your body and you're starting to have sex with someone, they are feeling this. Okay, this is rape. So of course, if you do it, but if you just didn't know, didn't understand that it does affect people, and you thought like, oh, it's just like some weird stuff that I can do and nobody will notice, then no, it is violation of sexual boundaries. That being said, if you are experiencing this and you want to send it back to sender, poof, like protect the sensual, send it back to sender. Don't let anybody interfere with your energy. This is a great talisman to do so. Okay, so the moon is Venus ruled. Venus on Algol, protecting women's rights, protecting their sensuality, whether you're a man or a woman or whatnot. Protect or two spirit or whatever, protecting your voice, protecting your wealth, and so on and so forth. So this does require acquaintance with Algol. It's way more potent. Algol is the most revered fixed star because it's the story of Medusa. Okay, it's a woman that has been through violation of her sexual boundaries. It's both the vengeance, the compassion to self, of healing, and many other things that connect with each one differently. So it's good against that type of magic that is either by chance or on purpose not ethical. Okay, so that can be one way, and then that's another way that you can do it. You can do it where even though the moon is not aspecting Venus, and here actually with the ascendant on Mars and the moon manifesting Mars here too, you can ask if you work with Mars for extra protection, for assertivity, for setting this boundary straight. You need to get this ascendant away from Rahu. But you might be able to play around with this and see if there's something good coming up. Now we are heading to pretty much the end of the windows of elections, and the moon is still growing. It's almost full. It's in Scorpio, so of course the moon in Scorpio is fallen, but now it opposes this Venus. Again, this very strong Mars ascendant. Protecting your money, but you gotta be able to work with Mars. Okay, this is not the Venus fluffy talisman. There's nothing fluffy about this one. And you also have a moon Jupiter. Okay, so moon Jupiter Venus, moon Venus, moon Jupiter Venus. The moon is not in the best place. It is growing, and the most angular planet is Mars. But we have this second house, Venus and Jupiter. You really need to adjust it to your own location and see, maybe you have a completely different ascendant. So this is for 2024. And just to kind of compare, let's go. Wait. Why am I being... No. Let's go to upcoming elections, and the next date we're going to have is June 6, 2025. So this is how long we're going to have to wait for Venus in Taurus. What does Venus in Taurus do? Material wealth, safety in your sensuality, embodiment, protecting your voice, and so on and so forth. So this is the ingress of Venus in 2025, And of course, we already wanted to get it separating from Pluto. So on my Venus return, it will be right on the degree. I want to get it more separated from this Pluto by at least 3 degrees. We start seeing... Okay. So the first elections we have is a waning moon. Let's see if we can take this waning moon out. Yet it's sextile. Saturn is already in Aries. So here we have on Wednesday, June 18th, a bit earlier in the day, we're going to have this moon sextiling Venus from Pisces. And let's just go like not 6 months, 6 hours. 6 hours. 3 hours. Still separating 3 hours more. I want the moon applying here almost. Okay, here is the moon applying. So this is June 17th. I'm gonna take a shot at this as well. It's a waning moon. So it's decreasing, it's not the best. Yeah. Not the best, but we're gonna have it sextile. Venus is in the 7th. Venus is in the 7th. Midheaven is ruled by the Sun, and the Sun is in the 6th, so this is a problem. Maybe if we can get it a couple of degrees earlier. So we're gonna have to play with this and see. This is a waning moon option, but this is already 2025. And that was a little bit of Elect Live with me. So we can plan our elections ahead, and I did Venus Taurus, which is the most classical material Venus, where you need both to be respected and to be wealthy. Another one that's good for wealth is the Venus Libra, which is kind of less preferred when Ketu is with Libra. So we're gonna go for the Venus one in Taurus one, at least for the time that Ketu is with Libra. So we can work with Venus Libra from previous elections. I think Sphere and Sundry still has them. So that is what you can do for Ketu being ruled by Libra. And in general, the benefit of Venus Taurus is when you want to connect connectivity and relational value with material value. Okay, and you need to understand, it gives you the wisdom that it's not just about getting the attention, it's not just about getting the nice words, or getting even the nice gifts. It's about standing on your own 2 feet, having your own land, your own house, your own cattle, your own crops, okay? That's very much the wisdom of Taurus. That is your own, regardless of who you are with. And that is only granted to you, and you will only be on the land where it is granted for you, no matter what. Nobody can take this away from you as a woman, no matter what. So this is Venus Taurus. Okay, this is Venus Taurus. And this is why Venus Taurus. So people talk about this as just, the gold digger, gold this, gold that. I don't think it aligns so much with the energy of gold digger. I think it's way, way more practical and way more specific, because the point is that you have your own wealth. Okay, the point is not that you're gold digging from another, it's that you have your own wealth, and then you can be safe to connect with people, and only with the person who respect your own material well-being and sensual well-being. So If we get the moon in water signs, so we get it with Cancer, we get, or in Pisces we get the sextile with Cancer is the best if we can, because then we have this emotional respect as well that we absolutely need for that. So this is the Venus Taurus, and that's why I kind of started on this Friday, which is Venus Day, on the Venus Taurus. Do we have some more time? We have some more time to do Jupiter, so I'm gonna go to Cross's election on the 29th. So right now we are on the 21st. So let's see the 29th. And this is a Jupiter day. Oh, 7th. Here's the 27th. Venus is retrograde though. So this is a problem. What was it on the 29th? It's a Saturday here. Oh, it's a Saturday. But the thing is, okay, the thing is that, well, Jupiter is pretty okay. And the moon is, and this is again an election where you could do, if you could pinpoint Jupiter day moon hour, you could pick Jupiter moon and play with the Jupiter moon. So the moon is in Jupiter sun and Jupiter is in Taurus, but the ruler of Jupiter is retrograde. So that can give unpredictability to the results. And so this is for this particular Jupiter. Maybe it was the 29th of August. I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm not gonna touch on Jupiter right now unless we want to do, I want to try and just a little bit of Jupiter in, yeah, we can try for Jupiter in Taurus, but I actually want, should I do Jupiter Cancer? We're gonna have Jupiter in Cancer. Okay, just a little bit before I release this episode, just a little bit Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter Cancer. So the ingress of Jupiter to Cancer will be on June 10th, 2025. This will be a, oh, with the moon in Sagittarius. And Jupiter with Mercury, but squaring Saturn. We were gonna need to get this Jupiter out of Saturn. I'm not gonna do it right now. But you kind of got the gist of how do you even look for these elections that you see people doing. And AstroSeek allows you to just look for the ingress, look for the particular degree, and you play along with the chart, and then you can find elections. So while we still are in Jupiter hour, I am going to, oh, but the moon is in the 12th. What can I do? I am going to upload this. And I hope you got a little bit out of this and you feel more confident with trying to look for these elections on your own. So you saw what I'm paying attention to: growing moon, angular planets that are close to the midheaven, to the ascendant, to the descendant, or the IC. I want the angular planets to be direct. I want them to be in good placement, okay? Not in their fall, not in their detriment. I want the moon to aspect the planet that I want to bring in. I want, then we can already begin to see if there's, what is the lunar mansion, and I'm doing episodes where I'm studying live the lunar mansions with you. What is the lunar mansion? And maybe we can connect it also with the lunar mansion, like Sphere and Sundry did with Asclepius on the recent election, where Austin picked it to be with the lunar mansion that is, the nakshatra. I picked for the nakshatra, and the lunar mansion that's to do with healing, or Ashvini, which is nakshatra, which is 1,000 healers. So then you can get it a bit more advanced. you want basically the rulers of the ascendant and the rulers of the midheaven to be direct and to be benefic. You probably prefer to steer out of Mars and Saturn being involved, being on the angle, aspecting either the moon or the planet that you're trying to bring, Venus in this case. You want the aspects that you don't like to be separating, but again, you don't want to ignore them even if they are separating. A separating aspect for Mars is still an aspect for Mars. And you definitely don't want to not pay attention for that. You can either have the moon aspecting the planet that you want to bring, or the moon in the sign of the rulership of that planet. So moon in Sagittarius bringing Jupiter in Cancer. Okay, so it's like they don't see each other, they're in conjunct, but if you get the moon hour and Jupiter day, or Jupiter day Jupiter hour moon day, then you are calling in the energy. You can still summon the energies when the moon does not see, by using the time, the planetary days and nights and the planetary hours. So those are kind of like the basics of the things. And if you combine degree theory, you want to keep out of at least the planets that you're calling being in the 22nd degree, the 18th degree, and so on and so forth. So that's like the basics of the basics, which I kind of gathered from looking at the charts that people elect. Okay, looking at Sphere and Sundry charts, looking at Christopher Warnock charts, looking at Halo Astro charts, at kind of people that are doing this, as well as listening when people talk about the elections. Listen, okay? If you read, most people that do this, they're going to give you the chart. If they're doing this professionally, they're going to give you the chart and they're going to give you the write-up. So read the write-up and you will understand the election, and then you can begin to look and see what were the considerations. They explain the considerations. I really love Sphere and Sundry, really goes into depth with that. Christopher Warnock really goes into depth with that, both of them, that I noticed. And they're going to tell you even what was the consideration, what was the good, what was the bad, why did they choose this election eventually, why did they decide to go on a decreasing moon, why did they decide to go for it anyway, what can this be useful for. So this is going to kind of give you a startup to do that. And it's always good to start with something that you can easily let go of. So Caitlin offering to begin with like a sigil or a note. Okay, I began with notes before I heard even Caitlin's recommendation. I began with notes. It was by chance. Before you go for like a jewelry or whatnot, you can do a painting, you can do a note, you can do something that you are okay with letting go of in the beginning, and start to explore that. Do not underestimate, if you have Saturn or Mars with the planets, with the angles, with the this, with the that, don't ignore that Mars can be accidents. Saturn can be delays and frustrations, or even losses at times, depending when. Houses. When something is in the 12th house, okay, something that you summon is in the 12th house as a ruler or not, you're going to have to know the rulership, which is pretty easy. I explained rulership actually in another episode where I talked about horary, so you can look this episode up. It's about horary, good tip for not overspending, and I got the rulership there. So as you can see, there's a lot of detail to it, but I do not rule out the fact that just like people teach horary before they teach astrology, because it gets you to understand who is friends with who is ruling who, and from there to do a natal reading is easier. Do not outrule the fact that it can be even easier to teach astrological magic to people, because anyway we follow the cycles of the moon, that is the manifesting, and so on and so forth, and from there it will be more understandable to read a chart, and you'll read a chart knowing what to do with that. I am no expert on any of this, so please double check everything. Like everything I say here, double check. I gave you the resources of people who are practicing that for a living, and that is, I think, pretty much most of the Jupiter hour that I have left. 17 minutes. Okay, that's nice. So the reason I'm doing this, first of all, I like doing live with me studies. I want you to get to look at the process, because it can be tedious, it can be annoying, it can be, how do they even get to these elections? Which I ask myself as well. So here's one good site that is absolutely free, this astrosig.com. You go to AstroTools, okay? You see here, returns on particular X degree. Okay, returns on, and then you press it again on mundane events, and then you get to this table. You get the planet. You choose whichever planet that you want. You even have like Chiron lunar nodes. Okay, it doesn't have the asteroids there, but and now you can get to the degree. So let's say I want the sun on Regulus. I'm going to get it sun on 0 degree. Basically we want moon and Regulus, and when you're doing magic, you want to get, if it's a planet, you want to get the planet on a degree. Okay, let's say sun in Aries exaltation, sun exaltation, sun in 9 degrees Aries. So for 2024 it's going to be on March 29th, and then you can check. Okay, you press the chart and you see what's happening in the chart. Okay, does the moon see this sun? If not, I can animate the chart. Okay, 1 day, 1 hour. I also have custom layout. I have shape, aspects, positions. Okay, this is more advanced chart, I think is good enough. And you can begin to play with this yourself. You can begin to work with this yourself. Nobody has the power over you. Nobody can do your magic for you. I do think that if you're getting into astrology, understanding like the magical aspect of it will make you feel more acquainted to deal with what you see. Because there's a lot of conversation even in the community going on about what is ethical reading, should we read for children? Those all are right questions. But then it kind of gets off to what branches of astrology are okay. It's kind of like, which is getting already very egoic in a negative way. However, when you do your magic, you're not so concerned. Okay, you do your magic. So let's say you read, oh, there is a harsh aspect going over there. Oh, Ketu is going to be on my ascendant. Good, work with Venus Libra. Work with Venus Libra. When not with Venus Libra, with Ketu, work with an election of Venus Libra where there isn't Ketu. Or, some harsh, I don't know. Let's say you have Saturn. Okay, let's say you have now Pluto ruled by Saturn. And Saturn is in Pisces. You say, what am I going to do? Am I going to work with Saturn? Of course not. Work with Jupiter. So pick a Jupiter Pisces election where Saturn isn't there, and ask to work on this Saturn, work on your Pisces house now, because this Pisces is ruling Pluto. Now you can intervene, you can find a point of intervention where you can have this energy. So it's all about finding points of intervention where you can either work in an energy that's good for you, work through an energy that you can work with. Okay, you talk to it's like, who's the guy I can talk with here that has the most pleasant face towards me and requires, the least amount of effort for me to work correctly, and then I can build on from there. So Venus Jupiter. But one warning that I have to give you is about the moon, and this warning is based on Caitlin Kopac's Moon series, and that is that because the moon is the manifesting, is the closest to the Earth, the moon is transforming. It's the liquids in our body. It's very potent. Okay, the moon is not supposed to be alone, and so that's the thing. When the moon is void, of course, when she's alone, doesn't make any traditional aspects. Then we experience it as this day where we're only with the, like, we're low, like something is very difficult, or with its pondering, its heaviness. But when she is when she's manifesting, then it's very good. And so for the planets that you want to work with, you see in your chart what is good. What is Venus is better? Is Jupiter better? You need to know if you're a lunar chart, solar chart. Solar chart, Jupiter is your pal, but what if you have Jupiter in Capricorn? Okay, either you can go and work with Jupiter in Pisces and Jupiter in Sagittarius and ask to support this Jupiter in Capricorn. So ask to support this Jupiter. Or you can try and find out, like, what else can you do? Okay, maybe there is some fixed star that you can work with. Maybe there is some asteroid that you can work with. And another thing is, like I said, the moon is not a first time magic election, not for performing magic and not for purchasing. So work like with Venus, Jupiter from reputable sources. And if you begin to, like, Venus, Jupiter, to some degree Mercury, and then you can even work with certain fixed stars. So Procyon I recommend to you if there is good elections for Procyon. Now it's a bit problematic with this Pluto. We're gonna have to wait for Pluto to move away from a kind of opposing Procyon. But the royal stars are a bit in difficulty. When Saturn moves out of Fomalhaut, then you can do Fomalhaut. And then there are fixed stars that are not, like, on the angles that you can work with. Sirius again is kind of problematic. But then you have the asteroids, which requires a bit more because there are some that is going to take a bit effort, or is going to take a bit radical acceptance, like Aries or Sedna. They are not beginners. I'm looking to see what will the Hygeia work bring. Asclepius, which is in Sagittarius, may be a good starter point. If you want to create something, I think Asclepius is still okay. And that's pretty much it. Okay, so you want to steer clear of the planets that you summon, or the rulers being in the 12th house, the 8th house, and the 6th house. All can give health issues, losses, traumas, and whatnot. So that's pretty much the same. Usually you want them angular. 11th house is okay. 2nd house for possessions, absolutely fine. 3rd house you can still work with for vlogging or so. 7th house is angular. 5th house, great for leisure time. 9th house also great. Okay, so angular is wonderful, it's very strong. But then 11th house can give you good social relations. 9th house can give you nice studies or good traveling. So yeah, and always work with these things against your chart, because you kind of bring in a synastry here. You're creating something as an election. How does it work in synastry with your chart? I know it sounds very advanced, because it is. But if you are the type of person who takes a look at this and takes the time to understand this, anything else that you'll do, whether it's horary, whether it's a natal reading, whether it's synastry reading, and later composite reading will be piece of cake. Anything else that you do with astrology from this point is going to get way easier. Got to get way easier. And not only that, you're going to read even your own natal chart, because we're heading towards the time where people are going to read their own charts rather than go to consultations. You're reading your own chart. You have this harsh aspect. Now you know what are the points of intervention, okay? Well, how do I work with this Pluto? Work with Jupiter Pisces. Work with Jupiter Pisces. Work with Jupiter Sagittarius. But now Saturn is in Pisces, Jupiter Pisces. It's going to be for this particular transit. Or you're looking at your natal chart. Okay? Looking at your natal chart. What am I going to do with so and so and so and so and so? Well, find the point of intervention. And then you work with the point of intervention. It's not always easy. There are some like trickery to it, but you can get a lot improved and you can get a lot of good results. It's trial and error. As you can see, it's quite complicated, but very worth taking a look at. And yeah, have a nice